There was a moment in Liverpool's loss to Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup where Arne Slot turned around and looked into the stands. What he saw were Liverpool fans leaving early at Anfield. That doesn't happen. The fans left early because they had zero belief or faith that Liverpool would score any goals in the final 5-10 minutes, never mind 3 to come back when they are 3-0 down to Crystal Palace. Despite it being Carabao Cup, this was a match that Liverpool had to win in order to rebuild some morale in the squad, in order to rebuild some faith in the fans and supporters, and to lessen the amount of frustration and disappointment and irritation that's happening across the board. And Arne Slot chose to put out a second string B team against a strong Crystal Palace that we've already lost to twice so far this season. Well, this was the third loss now in a row. But more importantly than that, we have now lost 5 of our last 6. This is the worst run of form I have ever seen as a Liverpool supporter. That's mental to be saying that so soon after winning our first bunch of games of the season and being the Premier League champions. What on earth has happened? Crisis, you cannot avoid it. We are in a crisis right now. That is for certain. There are calls for Slot out. I'm not going to say that, but it was damn stupid of Arne Slot to throw this game away like he did. Because the moment we all of us saw the lineup, we knew this was going to be a battering. And actually 3-0 is lucky. I thought 4 or 5-0. And when we were 2-0 down by half time, I thought my prediction was going to come true, that we'd be 4-5 down by the end of the match. Lucky it's only 3-0. We never looked like scoring. We only had 1 shot on target the entire match. All right, we're going to talk about the match. We're going to talk about some performances. We're going to talk about what on earth is Arne Slot doing at the moment. I'm Laurence on Liverpool, a tiny, tiny Liverpool fan channel. Do give me a subscribe and a like, and you know what? Let's just get into this. So the moment I saw the lineup, I was worried. Then I looked at the bench and I realized we didn't even have any reinforcements on the bench. Arne Slot didn't even bother to put some of our big names on the bench. What that does is that gives the kids and the fringe players on the field a bit of confidence. Okay, if it isn't going well, they can bring on some of the superstars and help us turn it around. And it also gives the opposition a little bit of fear. If in 60th, 70th minute, you bring on a big name player who can change the game, now they've got to rethink and they've got to stress out about that. He had no one on the bench to turn to. It was as if Arne Slot had conceded to losing the match before the beginning whistle. Why would he do that when the club is struggling for momentum, belief, morale? And this was a fantastic opportunity. What I hoped would happen before the match started was that Crystal Palace, not having the deepest of squads, may say, you know what, we'll put out our second string and just sacrifice this tournament or hope for a bit of luck, because the Premier League's more important for us and we want to get a really good placement in it. We want to focus for our next run of matches. But no, it was Liverpool that did that. And that really shook me because we got quite a big squad. We really should have been able to put out a decent side. Yeah, you take out 3 or 4 players. Put in Robbo instead of Kirkez. You put in Gomez instead of Kanate. You let Engamoa start instead of Gakpo on the left and then bring Gakpo in on the 60th minute. Those are the sorts of changes you make when you want to win a cup game, but you still want to rest players a little bit. You're preserving, rotating and so on. You don't take all your players out, put a whole new bunch in, put a makeshift back 3 of Robbo, Endo and Gomez, have 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds in crucial positions when you're playing a team as big and as impressive as Crystal Palace have been lately. That to me was, I'm happy to lose this game. And if Arne Slot is saying, I'm happy to lose this game, where on earth is his head right now? Because if he hasn't realized, there are calls in the fan base for Arne Slot out. I'm not one of them. I don't want to knee-jerk that quickly. I know it's been a terrible run of form, but I think things can still turn around. And he won the league only last year. Come on, there has to be some grace period for that. But there's still a growing vocal section of the fan base that is saying Arne Slot out. And then you go and play a team like that at such a crucial moment as this. Now, what if we go and lose to Villa and then Real Madrid? Because we didn't take this opportunity to possibly get a morale-boosting win. If we'd put out our strongest team, maybe we could have beat Crystal Palace 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. And then we'd have a second win in 3 games, along with the Frankfurt one a week ago. That builds a little bit of confidence. It stabilizes the ship a bit more. It infuses you with a little bit more positivity. But instead, we're now 5 losses in the last 6 games, staring down the barrel of the gun, and absolutely in crisis mode, I would say. Let's talk about some of the performances. Well, Engamoa, I always like seeing him play. All right, he had a bit of spark to him. There was a shot in the first half where he tried a long-range curling shot. And when it left his foot, I thought, that's going way wide. Got used to too many shots from Mo Salah recently. But it actually curved loads, and it almost got into that top corner. What a goal that would have been. If his stock wasn't rising fast already, that would have sent it through the moon. Unlucky for the lad. Elsewhere in the game, he had spriteful little dribbles. He was fairly responsible with it, never overly selfish, good team player. I like him. He's got a good future. Chiesa also had a bit of zip to him in moments. He did go missing in other moments too, though, but good feet, good little dribbles. There's a moment in the first half where he was battling 2 Crystal Palace defenders, managed to get the ball and have a shot, but it was just over the bar. Both halves had the same pattern where we started off very defensively sound, it seemed, and with a bit of zip in attack. And then as the half wore on, Crystal Palace started to cut through us, slice us open with passes, and our attack just got muted, absolutely disappeared, dissipated. All the energy just drained away. Both halves were quite similar in that sense, and Crystal Palace would score as soon as we started to take our foot, not even off the gas, because we weren't really like that high tempo, but as soon as we started to kind of lose a bit of faith, a bit of belief, Crystal Palace would up the tempo and then score at ease. It was at halftime I put a note to myself, is Arne Slot trying to get sacked? I don't believe he is. I'm not starting a conspiracy. But he played a disjointed team, B-string, lots of fringe players, lots of young players, with no understanding or cohesion between them when we badly need a win and a strong, good performance. This could have been a morale booster for many of our first team players if we'd played them and got a win. And he also played a short team. If you notice, there wasn't much height in there. Apart from Gomez, everyone else was quite short. Even in our central defensive positions where we had Robbo and Hendo joining Gomez, they're short players for that role anyway. And we've been susceptible to set pieces recently. We've looked weak and vulnerable to crosses and corners, and we play a short team. Once again, is he trying to lose this game? As the rainfall started falling heavily, it was almost symbolic. You know, we are up against it. Liverpool are up against it now. The season's gone completely off the rails, and it would take a monumental effort to get through this, start winning games again, and actually put a challenge in for the Premier League, look like we could go far in the Champions League. It's not looking good because once morale and momentum is so severely damaged, and I believe that's what's happening, if it hasn't already happened, it's incredibly hard to fix that. That's why I think Arne Slot should have taken this game so much more seriously. And I'm not saying, you know, he disrespected the cup, he disrespected Crystal Palace. There are rational decisions, and there are times when you say, we need to put our focus elsewhere. But when you are struggling and you've lost 5 of your last 6, your focus absolutely should be on rebuilding confidence, regaining momentum, putting belief. As Klopp famously said, turning doubters into believers. I feel like our squad are a group of doubters right now. Our squad are a group of doubters. You can see it in their body language, their facial expressions. They go onto the pitch, not really believing they can win. I'm talking about the first team here, but it's also evident today in the second string. I didn't really feel like they believed they could win. There were times when Chiesa was holding the ball up, waiting for players to run on or run by and feed. A bit of movement there. No one joined him. He was like an island. The man was an island up front. Went from bad to worse. Nalo gets a red card. At this point, we don't really care. I mean, I feel sorry for the young player to get a red card, second red card of the season. But I don't think it made too much of a difference to the game, really. And it's not like we're going to need him for future matches, so it's not. And we can't really take much from this game into our next fixtures in terms of strategy, tactical switches, player behaviour, because it was just such a B team. None of these players, apart from one of Robbo or Kirkes, is going to play in the match against Villa. Thankfully, Villa aren't having their best season either, which makes it a bit more even maybe. Maybe Liverpool can try and find a way to win this game. That would be nice to see. And then go into the Real Madrid match with at least a bit of a stable footing. We've just got to put some feet on the ground here and actually lock down and say no more losses. This is what we have to do. But to recap, one shot across the whole match is not good enough. Our attack just was having a little bit of zip and energy in the first 10 minutes of each half. Very quickly fell apart with no real movement, no real runners, no real belief. And our defence, despite having 3 players, Robbo, Endo and Gomez all trying to crowd that box, we still got cut open and we still got sliced through. I think this was the worst thing that could have happened. I think Slot made a huge mistake not playing our first team and just making a few rotations and actually prioritising a win to re-infuse some positivity and confidence into the team. They're going to be even further down in the dumps. The first team players, you saw Alisson and Szoboszlai and all the other first team players sitting on the bench. Not on the bench, but on the bench behind the bench because they weren't actually on the bench for the game. Looking on. Heavy rain pouring down on them. Watching their teammates lose 3-0 to Crystal Palace, who just keep beating Liverpool for fun. They can't be feeling good about this either. Huge mistake, in my opinion. Slot needs to get it together really fast. I still believe he can. It's not a one-man thing. Imagine a football club the size of Liverpool is not down just to one person. There's a whole team of coaches around, a whole group of staff around, and then all the players themselves and the leaders within the players in the dressing room. They've all got to take a collective responsibility. But Slot, as the figurehead, needs to make some key decisions that will help Liverpool get out of the slump. And I think today he did a boo-boo. I think today he made the wrong decision. Let me know what you think. Do you believe Liverpool can turn this around? Are you Slot out already? Very interested in your thoughts, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.